The 11th day of the 11th month on the 11th year of the 2000s, Skyrim came bursting into the gaming world. I was working the midnight launch at a GameStop, and I took the next 3 days off to waste away in a cocoon of 1 part nostalgia and 2 part excitement. Traversing an open world where my decisions were my own and the main story a backdrop to my personal ambition. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a game that delivers this exact same dopamine and rush that Skyrim did. In my first impressions video, I likened it to Ultima Online, so I couldn't use that comparison twice, it would be tacky. But it definitely reminds me of the same sense of wonderment I had in both of those games. In this video today, I want to give you my spoiler-free review of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 after having played it near 100 hours. And I'm still nowhere near beating it if I'm honest. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge in my videos. So let me give you the summary of this review as someone who hated Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and just couldn't get into it. But Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is up there for me among games like Baldur's Gate 3 as one of the best games to have come out in the last 10 years. It whisks you away right from the start into medieval Bohemia in a time that is rife with conflict. The pacing of the second game is so much better this time around, complete with diving into combat within the first 30 minutes of the game and expanding on the system with all of its intricacies as you progress. The game as a whole just has a far better ease of access. Sure, you'll be overwhelmed by tutorial screens anytime you encounter any of the many mini games associated with mechanics in this game, but you can just brush them away and interact with those help screens with a simple key press whenever you need a refresher or miss something. That's something you could do in the first one, but still, it just feels like it's so much better paced rather than thrown at you nonstop. The main story does a good job of giving you breadcrumbs into all the initial mechanics, so by the time you're 2 or 3 hours in, you're set up with at least a basic understanding of everything in the game. And don't get me wrong, this game is hard. You have to change your mindset when jumping in. Don't go for quests and side quests, go for adventure. Think of those minutes after you dealt with the intro to Skyrim. You went off the beaten path immediately. Do the same thing here. Warhorse Studios has empowered you with so much player agency, and there's so many ways to tackle every obstacle in this game. Want to steal your way to success? Do it. How about becoming a knight on horseback? It exists. You can even relive those power fantasies of the stealth archer. Hell, even just being a cunning linguist, I know what I just said, is strong in this game, as the speech skill is just so much easier to level along with so much power attached to it. Not to mention that every step you take in this world is complete with a breathtaking display of graphics and music that immerses you into the setting so wonderfully. On top of it, it's so well optimized that I felt almost zero performance issues my entire time playing. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 fixed all the issues I had with the first game and delivers a package that sets a new standard for narrative-driven, single-player, open-world RPGs that I think more games need to tap into. If you're on the fence about this game, don't be. It will reward you the longer you play, and the punishment is more in the difficulty and less in clunky mechanics and hard to understand systems. But that's the too long didn't watch for this entire video. So if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down and get ready for tomorrow because the game's launch is just around the corner. You can navigate to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. And if you have not yet picked up Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and you fully intend on doing so, you can pre-order or buy, depending on when you see this video, the game using my Fanatical link in the description and pinned comment. It's 10% off through them. You'll get a Steam key and I earn an 8% commission, so it's an awesome way to support the channel. Lastly, don't forget to check me out on Twitch, where I'll be doing a day 1 giveaway of the game tomorrow, February 4th, linked below. But let's get started on my review of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And much like my preview video or my impressions video, I'm going to start off with a conversation about combat, because I think it's the biggest thing that people want to know about coming into a game like this. Is the combat engaging? Is it more fun than the first one? What's the situation like? And I'm very happy to report that it is an improved system upon the first one. For those of you that played the first one like myself and just really couldn't get into it, there becomes a point in the game where you learn from an actual trainer and the game progresses pretty well with the combat system from there in KCD 1, which is what I'm going to refer to for Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2 rather than saying that whole entire phrase every time. With KCD 2, you get access to combat right away. You'll do that right in the initial prologue, and then you'll meet a trainer who teaches you more of the intricacies of combat. And there are quite a few. You'll learn about master strikes. You'll learn about redirecting blows. You'll learn about like using a shield bash basically after you attack from a certain direction. And all this just blends so well together. And what I like about it is that combat feels very fluid. It's not very janky. It doesn't feel so rudimentary as it did in the first one. It feels like it's got a better flow. And it, of course, you know, there's that progression, right? As you get better with whatever weapon or weapon sets you want to use, you will, of course, go faster. You'll be able to understand how the attack directions work and stuff like that. But what's nice here is, and I'll go into, I have a combat guide coming out on the tomorrow on the launch of the game. The game kind of, it doesn't hold your hand in that it tells you, hey, attack here, but it gives you very quick little telegraphs telling you what the optimum direction is. And it doesn't slow down time for you to do it. It doesn't make that an easy click. But whenever you're attacking, you'll see the red reticle telling you, hey, you're attacking in this direction. And you'll see a quick flash of one of the little icons telling you this is the most optimum direction you can go after that. So you can kind of follow those if you so wish. But it's such a quick thing that you would almost miss it if you weren't looking for it. It's a feature that I didn't realize was there until maybe 10, 20, or 30 hours into the game. It took a little bit of time to understand that. So the combat just feels so much more fluid, and it's grimy, and it's awesome to sword bind with someone and then miss a block and they end up punching you out, and then someone behind you stabs you. It's got a lot of fluid action to it, because now you can move dynamically in between multiple targets attacking you by, and I'm using a keyboard, so unfortunately I don't know what this is like on a controller. If I hold shift, I freely can move and switch to a different target, release shift, and I'm back to locked on. So it's a lot more fluid to deal with multiple combatants, which is something that you're going to do a lot when you're fighting in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Of course, there's going to be set narrative points or tournaments and what have you, where you are doing one-on-ones. But the nice thing is you get access to, or you get a real fluid way to do multi-target combat quick and immediately in the game. And furthermore, you'll be introduced to a trainer that allows you to train with that person kind of in the same way you would like a fighting game, right? If you wanted to do a training and the character just immediately assumes a defensive stance unless you turn on the AI to make them attack you. So you have the ability to basically train on this trainer infinitely as much as you want, and have them, and you can have each other swap out to different weapons. Maybe you use a long sword or a short sword, or a short sword and a shield, or a heavy weapon. So it gives you the chance to just spend hours learning the combat risk-free at a trainer, where they will also teach you little things while you're doing it. Like they might say, hey, you went too many times in this direction, try switching to this direction, make it more dynamic. It just is such a better system, and it leads you into it and is such a better pace. And I like the fact that I basically have like I said, like a fighting game training mode I can use because I'm not smart. So it gives me the chance to get better at all of the mechanics that the game throws your way when it comes to learning fighting. Now, with combat also comes archery, and I want to cover it in this section because a lot of people have raised concerns about it compared to the first game, and it is a lot easier. Now, what's important though to know, not just about combat, but about everything in this game, it's relative to your skill level. And there's personal skill level for you as the player, and then there's practical skill level, which is you as the character in the game. And as you raise your marksmanship skill, your character will be able to sufficiently aim a bow and arrow or a crossbow. But furthermore, too, there are different quality scores on all of your weapons and armor, and those lower quality scores with crappier bows makes it harder to aim because it doesn't allow for it. But as you increase your marksmanship skill, you get access to better quality bows. You get the ability to aim far more succinctly, and thus over too, just like with melee combat, you have the capability to very quickly in the early portions of the game, discover a location where you can practice archery. And all of these things too have systems wherein you can do tournaments. I'm going to use the word tournaments, mini contest tournaments, whatever it is, to practice this capability even more and get rewarded for it. Like you can go basically do a buy-in for an archery tournament. It's like, oh, here's 10 Groshen. I'm going to say gold because I don't know the pronunciation. Even though I've played the game for hours. You pay the 10 gold and then you could win up to like 50 or whatever it is. So it gives you the chance at a very low investiture to you to get off the ground early at an actual high stakes situation rather than just simply shooting a target. So there's a lot of ways you can tap into a much more refined and a lot better combat system. And it just feels so rewarding as you get better. And what's nice too is I've never felt, at least in my portion of the game, where I think with these games, you find a point where you're like, I'm just so good at the combat that the combat's not challenging anymore. That, yeah, you'll get good at a portion of the combat, then you'll start to get to a new area where you have to deal with harder individuals that maybe have more armor on them. They themselves have more, which is a terrible sentence. They have more sword skill or warfare skill or whatever associated weapon skill. So they are way better at their combos. They attack faster. They have a different pacing. It's kind of like a comparison would be Ghost of Tsushima, where it allows you to progress through the game where you're not just killing things with more hit points, you're killing things that know how to fight you better. And I think that's the biggest thing about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's combat, is that the progression on it matches how you're progressing as a player. So the challenge always feels fresh versus just, okay, I got to just really whack the hell out of this guy a bunch of times in the head with a sword and then I'll kill him. Like, no, they know how to master strike you back. They can parry you. They're going to perfect dodge around you and stab you. Whatever the situation is, the AI just becomes better at combat as you progress through the game. And I think that's the biggest point for combat here. And that's something that KCD1 had. Don't let me split hairs here, but that's something about the combat that I like so much is I've been able to get into it so easily. I've been able to solidify myself in it a lot better. And I've never felt like I was just that much better than the AI throughout the entirety of the game. I felt like it's pushed back against me enough that it's a consistent challenge. Another big portion of this game, though, is the narrative. And I don't want to go too heavy into this because, again, this is spoiler-free video. So what I'm showing you is just stuff from the prologue that we've seen either through gameplay footage or trailers. So none of this should be too much of a surprise. And again, it's not even like divulging big portions of the story. But the story is really rewarding, and it's fun, and it's unique, and it's different, and it's got a seriousness at times, like you're watching like a costume drama, like you're, oh man, am I in like the narrative portions of a Braveheart movie? Or it pivots sometimes to tongue-in-cheek humor. Am I watching a Monty Python skit? So there's a good balance to it, and interwoven between all that is just beautiful music. It's one of the biggest portions of the game, and to harken back to my comparison to Ultima Online, one of the biggest things for me with Ultima Online was how the music really played into stuff. And I'll talk about this more in Immersion, but there's just such a good music coupling with the narrative portrayal of things that just helps you really sink into the teeth of what's going on. And even just from the start of the game through the prologue, through a lot more of the grittier portions of the prologue, you get a really good sense of A, the story if you did not complete the first game, and B, you get a very good kind of sense for the pacing of what this story is going to be like. Like I said, it's got some real great, bright, funny moments, and it's got some very good, dark, serious moments. And on top of that too, with the narrative being this great, cool, beautiful construct, you don't even need to interact with the narrative. You cannot beat the game without the narrative though. So your character has an actual level that they can hit. That level at some point will get gated by the actual main story. It'll say, hey, you can't progress your level anymore until you complete the story to push you to the next area, which is fine. And it's not jarring. You're not like, I'm level 4. You mean I can't progress anymore? My character is not the max level, and I have not hit that point, but I do know that point is there. So you can explore as much as you want without doing the MSQ, the main story quest, if you so wish. You can do a bunch of side quests. You can do a bunch of side adventures. And then when you're ready to do the main quest to progress on, you can. I spent maybe 50 hours in the region right after the prologue, but before the next big step in the game. So just to give you an idea that the narrative is, while beautiful, is really one portion of the beauty of this game, wherein so much of it is attached to just being free and fun and open. Very much like what we get with a Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption, where, yeah, sure, do the main story, but maybe go hunt a bear, whatever kind of steps that you want to take. And that's something what Skyrim did too, right? You pushed to where you wanted to go in Skyrim, and there were certain spots you couldn't go because it was tied to the main story. But by and large, the world was accessible to you from the start. You'll get that same symptom here coming into Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But since I brought this up, let's talk about it now. Immersion. This game is immersive. And there's so many little tiny things that make the game feel a real cool step in a immersive world. Because, you know, when you're playing a video game and you get a torch, you're like, I don't need this torch. Well, you need the torch when you're playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, because if you're walking the streets at night and you don't have a torch on, then the guards assume you're up to some nefarious action, some skullduggery. They won't allow it. So what's cool about that is there's a bit of an immersion to it. Do I want to play a stealthy character that's going to go rob some houses at night? Well, obviously I'm not going to need my torch, but to help alleviate some conspicuousness, I can use my torch, walk around to where I need to be, you know, stow the torch and then go to town. So there's a lot of really cool little bits like that. Yeah, you have to constantly repair your arms and armor. And it's not like when you're playing like a Zelda, like any of the newer Zeldas where your stuff's constantly breaking, but there is an upkeep to it. And I think with that immersion of that upkeep, it keeps that dopamine of the same sense of excitement that we get when we play an action RPG like a Diablo clone or a Path of Exile, whatever it is, where getting just little tiny incremental improvements to your gear is like, ooh, I want to go back out and find another bandit camp and see if I can get an even better helmet. And the randomization of all that too allows you to stay so immersed in your character's progression because you're able to push that bar forward. And the crafting too is not just simply, oh, I'm going to look at a menu, press this tincture or this decoction or this potion and make it. No, you have to manually bring each and every little ingredient, throw it into this pot, make sure you boil it for this turn of the hourglass, and then do this over here. There's so many little systems that overlap on themselves that you would think at first blush are very annoying. And I'm not going to lie to you. When I was first introduced to the alchemy system, I was like, this is dumb, this is annoying, this is going to be cumbersome. But it wasn't. It was actually very rewarding, and it was cool to memorize the actual path of going through and making any of these potions. Like, oh, I already know what to do here, but I can reference my recipe book, which is just on my right side. And as you get better at making things, or if you do it properly, you get multiple potions made at once. So falling into the immersion, the game rewards you. If you don't really get into the immersion, you're not really into it, and you're like, just trying to push through this. Okay, well, you're going to be making one potion at a time. Versus, hey, you're successful. Here's 3 potions. Oh, you got the perks for it? Here's 5 potions, whatever it is. So you don't need to do that process as many times. And I'll be honest too, potions and saving and stuff like that, which I'll talk about in a second here in this section, I barely ever use them. Like it's not like it is in a lot of other games where you're like, oh, I got to be saving all the time. I got to be quaffing potions all the time. You definitely can. They're more of like get out of jail free cards, or like, hey, this helps me in certain situations. But the immersion of it all allows you to feel like you can just be a really good combatant and not need to rely on the crutch of a potion all the time, which is, I think, a really cool way to approach it. And that immersion extends to so many other things. It extends to the way that the reputation works in the game, the way that speech works in the game too, because all of your speech skills aren't just simply like, hey, I'm going to coerce you or intimidate you, or what's the other one? Where you do it peacefully, convince you, whatever it is. It's got layers to it. You can't intimidate someone if you are covered in if you're wearing a jester suit. They're just not going to be intimidated. Your score is lower for it. But if you're covered in blood, you're wearing black plate armor, and you have nothing but like rags on or something like that, where you just look haunting, someone's gonna be like, well, I will believe this man. He has a skull on his head, like, or whatever. Like, you won't have a skull on your head, but still, my point remains. A lot of your character's looks and a lot of your character's equipment plays into your capability to stealth, plays into your capability to convince someone that you're altruistic, or conversely convince someone that you are, not altruistic, that you are an evildoer, a ne'er-well that is trying to convince a certain or intimidate a certain response out. All these systems play so well together, which is what I said before in my impressions video, but they play so well together, and they make it so that the game has a gameplay feedback loop that gives back to you by playing into it, much in the same way that V-Rising did. V-Rising rewarded you for going and making a castle in the way that the game wanted you to, because now you produce things faster. If you learn the systems the way the systems are presented to you in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you are rewarded quicker with better experience. You want to be better at agility? Go steal a bunch of things, and all of a sudden your character's agility skyrockets, or do some marksmanship. You want to be better at strength? walk around over encumbered from one town to the next, basically strength training, endurance and strength training, and you'll increase your strength and vitality. There's so much interplay between all these systems that it keeps you so immersed in what the game has to offer to you versus bouncing off on one system and not having another system take. It is just such a reward, like I said before, like 5 times in the section now, to play through everything interlinked. Now, as it pertains to the graphics and the music and the presentation of this game, it's top notch. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 came out in 2017, 2018. I think it's 2018. It's the tail end of 2018. And that game had beautiful visuals. But the progression of that into this game is breathtaking. It again pushes things to a really good limit. But at the same time, the game feels so well optimized. And it's something that I really appreciate is I don't fluctuate wildly in my frames per second while playing this game. I'm almost always above 100 frames per second. I have a 4090, and I have all my Spectra in the description below. I've got like, I don't even remember how much RAM anymore, but I've got a lot of RAM. I've got a decent enough i9 12900 KF, whatever it is. So I have a pretty good system. So take this all with a grain of salt, right? Like if you have less than that, it's probably going to be a different performance for you. But talking to other content creators, they have also not had big performance issues. And I think that's a real great, brand of excellence that or stamp of excellence that Warhorse has decided to do here in releasing a game that is visually stunning and beautiful with just enough graphical intensity to not make it overwhelming to the point where you're like, Jesus, everything is shimmering. There's so much bloom. There's HDR out my ass. No, it's really nicely toned down. The world feels very ambient and alive because of how all this plays together. This is kind of a little bit of the immersion track, and that's why I put this after that section. But the game operates on its own, with or without you. There are quests that you could completely bypass because you weren't there to witness the event that would have triggered the quest. The game tells you, hey, there's a quest tipper over here is what it's called, and you can go and try to see what's up with that situation, but you might miss it because the game just feels organic and alive. And from the graphics down to the way the AI interacts with one another, the AI will remember certain things. So if you steal something and it was one of their shirts and you walk around the town with it, like, that's my shirt. And you are immediately, because it still has like the red hand of it having been stolen. So uh-oh, I gotta run from a guard, I gotta turn myself in, or go pay penance. So all this stuff plays so well together. And then the music is just a beautiful undercurrent to the whole thing. Like I was saying earlier in the video about Ultima Online's music being MIDI, right? It was MIDI, and then it was, I think it was originally like .wav, then MIDI, then like full-fledged MP3 and orchestral and all this crap. But this is an orchestral soundtrack, and it is beautiful, and it just sets the pace for every little thing. As you start to go into private areas where you're skulking around, the music switches to those tunes. Are you running through the countryside? You're going to hear birds chirping. You're going to hear lovely violins going to town on stuff. Like, the game's recognition of what you're going through and the music that attaches to it just makes it feel so good together. The graphics interplay so well with the music, that interplays so well with that immersion that just keeps you locked in at a great level. Like, I can't tell you how many times I was like, yeah, this music really fits into this, what I'm doing here. And it just keeps you into that loop. It's just too fun because I find myself in moments of playing where I'm like, I have been spending an hour doing something that is nothing. Like nothing. I'm over here in a corner I'm picking herbs, and I'm searching through this chest to try to organize which armor I want to wear for this situation. And all of it just does so well together because there's a visual aspect to what you're wearing, and that does actually have an effect on your character's stats. But part of those graphics are in the recognition that your character can look really cool, but also really beaten up depending on like how clean all this is. So I just love how the visuals for this game really help to make it pop. So all this comes full circle to the question of, should you play Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Is it worth your time? Is it something you're going to be able to sink your teeth into? And if you bounced off the first game like I did, I think you're going to love this game. And I think you probably bounced off it for similar reasons than I did. And, you can make the argument, like I've said before, about patience. But again, I was raised in the baptism of games like Lineage 2 EverQuest, Ultima Online, and single-digit Final Fantasy games. I know grinding. I know how tedious game systems can be in all of these things. And the patience of this game is more in the portrayal of all the systems unraveling before you in a very succinct manner versus a more drawn-out one. And I think, and this is my biggest warning to you, as anyone who potentially wants to get into this game, don't watch YouTube videos, don't read game articles, don't read Reddits and forum posts that tell you how to play this game. Play the game however the hell you want, and you're going to love this game. If you play someone else's game that tells you to play this exact way, you're not going to like it, because this game is about you and unfolding a journey that you want to go on. And that's so true of single player RPGs that I think we've lost sight of that in a lot of different ways. We're so hell-bent on the min-max. This is not Overwatch. This is not Marvel Rivals. This isn't any of those kind of competitive games. Don't worry about something not being quote-unquote meta or trash. Just jump in and have fun. And that's what I think this game does so well, is it gives you the tools to be exactly what you want in this world, and it does it so well that you don't feel like, oh man, my character's not progressing. Your character's going to progress because you're just going to use the systems, and the systems are going to get back to you. And I have loved, let me be honest, I did not love the first hour because I went in with a negative mindset. I went in with the mindset that this game's not going to be good, it's going to piss me off like the first one did, and I'm not going to like it. And my mind was immediately changed, and I bitched and moaned too. I was talking to Strat Gaming about it. I was like, I'm not gonna like this game. This game's gonna be terrible. He's like, just play it, dude. Shut up. And he was right. It hit all the things that I wanted in a video game. It had a lot of really awesome historical references to all sorts of very accurate things that happened in the Middle Ages. If you are a history buff, this game's gonna be for you. It has an amazing RPG system that gives it to you in a lot of different ways, and it's rewarding for you choosing how you want to play with it. So if you like the open-endedness of RPGs, this is going to be for you. And the open world is not so hand-holdy in the sense, and I hate that term, but it's not so hand-holdy in the sense that it says, hey, here's all the things you can go and do, go to each one. And I think a lot of the times when you play an open world game like that, it causes you to like get overwhelmed and you get fatigue, right? Like think of jumping into Assassin's Creed Valhalla and okay, you just revealed another location. There's 20 more things to go investigate. Nope, the game doesn't show you that those things exist. You can listen to NPCs, or an NPC might tell you, oh yeah, my cart overturned over there where I had all my armor. Oh, ooh, shit. And that gets marked on the map for you. You don't discover, you have to discover those things yourself. So if you want an open world RPG where you actually explore things and find them out for yourself versus basically playing a connect the dot of all the locations, and this game is going to be for you. If you liked playing Chivalry and Mordhau and you liked the gritty combat system that was fast-paced yet very intricate with a I would say a low skill floor but a high skill ceiling, this game will be for you. It definitely has a reward attached to its combat system the further you get into it. You know, I said Mordhau and Chivalry, those games have a little bit more of an arcadey feel. This is a little bit more of a well, it has a lot more of a grounded feel. You can't be like jumping around then like crouching and slashing and trying to take off people's legs or some crap. It's not going to do that. But still, if you want a nitty-gritty medieval combat system, this one's going to be for you. And don't mind my dryer going off in the background. I'm sure you can hear it. But there are so many great things about Kingdom Come Deliverance, and I can keep talking about it. I mean, this is a 4-minute section that I was like, we'll make this one like 2 or 3 minutes. And the game just, it hits on such a great nostalgic factor for me as far as the sensation of being in a video game that it feels open to me. And it hits on such a good excitement factor where I feel like I'm constantly improving little things about my character to never feel like I've hit one of those plateaus. You know, when you're playing a video game and you're like, oh, okay, I want to get my character to 58, let's just say, or 40 or whatever. And you get to 40 and you kind of feel like, okay, well, I've hit this horizon and the next one's over there and I don't really want to go to it. The game is like a nice gradual slope where you always feel like you're progressing and you never feel like you're jumping from plateau to plateau. And I think that's important to the momentum of this game because it keeps you invested in its forward progress. Across the music, across the graphics, across the narrative, everything is aces and it just pushes you in the right direction. But that is my down and dirty of this game. I don't have a number score for it. I'm not really good at those because I have I like Steven Seagal and Chuck Norris movies growing up. Like there's my taste as a number thing is reckless at best. So I think you'll love this game if you like these things, if you like these settings, if you like this world. And you can go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. What were some concerns that you had that you've seen alleviated with the review? Or are there things that you still don't know about and no one's really hit in the content and you really want to know more about? Then let me know in the comment section below. I'm more than happy to answer any questions anyone has about the game before they purchase, before they dive in. I'm going to be streaming it tomorrow. I'll be streaming it all week, so you can jump into my streams and watch me play. I'll be giving away keys of the game, so you can hopefully win them. But feel free to jump in. Don't make your decision right now if you don't want to. But play the game however you want, and I promise you will love Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.